Good morning. My name is Joel Harrell, and I am the Director of Federal Student Aid's Partner Engagement and Relationship Management Group. Federal Student Aid is excited to once again have the opportunity to engage with presidents, chancellors, and senior leadership at historically Black colleges and universities at this year's virtual HBCU annual conference. This year's session, the Reimagined FSA Institutional Partnership, a pathway for presidents, senior level administrators, that leads to increased levels of engagement, collaboration, and student success, provides a forum for you to hear about the U.S. Department of Education and Federal Student Aid's vision for support of HBCUs and the students you serve. At the conclusion of the presentation this morning, we hope that you will stay online with us for a real-time Q&A session in which you will be able to place your questions in the chat box and have conversations and engage with our participants. Thanks again for taking the time to participate in this year's session, and we look forward to your engagement with our presenters. Let me now introduce our first speaker for the morning, Mr. Richard Cordray. Richard has recently joined Federal Student Aid as its Chief Operating Officer, having most recently served as the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Board. Richard brings a wealth of leadership and management expertise to FSA. Richard, welcome to this morning's session.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Richard Cordray, the new Chief Operating Officer of Federal Student Aid. As many as you know, our job is to oversee, from beginning to end, the process for financing higher education through federal grants and loans. That includes both the application and award process, as well as the process for repaying student loans. First, let me start by thanking you for having me be part of your conference to mark National Historically Black Colleges and Universities Week. This is the 20th straight year that FSA has joined these conference sessions. We remain deeply committed to the HBCU community and the students you serve. By the way, I also have happy memories of participating in this conference a few years ago when I was the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. For more than 150 years, Black colleges and universities have played an important role in our nation's educational history. Against much resistance and many difficulties, the leaders of these schools have championed the promise of equality by helping develop the innate abilities of countless young people. Those students could not have had the same chance without the determination and courage of those who have built and sustained these schools around the country. And frankly, the role these schools play in our society is more vital now than ever. America, the land of liberty. But if we do not have the opportunity to make the most of our inherent abilities, what is that liberty for? If we cannot blossom in ways that fulfill our promise, we're squandering our most precious asset, which is one another. We're failing both our society and our ideals. I'm reminded of the poignant lines from Thomas Gray's famous elegy, recounting the tragedy of talent ignored and potential unrealized. He wrote, "Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air." The vision for our historically Black colleges and universities is that we will do right by our aspirations and goals as a nation. We will open more avenues for everyone through the magical transformations that only a quality education can bring about. Flowers don't blossom without the rain, fruits don't ripen without the sun, and young people do not grow into their full adulthood without the kind of education that allows them to expand their prospects in life. The leaders at FSA and the Department of Education believe deeply that our historically Black schools help us advance toward a more inclusive nation. And that is a central part of our mission also at FSA. I view FSA as having a key role, and because it focuses on finances, you know it is a key role in enabling the American dream. So it is important that we continue to work closely with you to deliver on our mutual goals for the present and the future. Most of you do not know me, but over my lifetime, I've spent years as a student, as a teacher, as a parent, and as a public servant. As I imagine is true for many of you too, education has been the key that unlocked every door I've faced in my life. It changed me over many years, first gradually and then irreversibly. It was essential to my every chance in life, to to qualify me for opportunities I sought out, to hone the tools to work and contribute to my community, to help my wife and me know how to raise our own children. Last month, we had the pleasure and felt the pride of seeing our twin children both receive their college diplomas. As is true for every new graduate, that moment represented a pinnacle toward which they had ascended over many years of effort and increased understanding. But I know that my own experience and the experience of my children is far from the full picture of what it looks like to pursue higher education today. We must continue our work to increase access and affordability. We know that young people who complete their education are well positioned to deal with the challenges of life, and we want to see more of them seize the same opportunities to learn and grow and flourish by earning this valuable credential. If we can do that, we also will strengthen the capacity of American society to meet the global challenges that confront us all in the years ahead. And speaking of challenges, we're all working together to navigate the major crisis we continue to confront. Like everything else, higher education has been significantly affected by the pandemic, and we're determined to chart the best path out of it. Remote learning has been tough on everyone, and we're well aware that you have been navigating enrollment and funding challenges while finding creative ways to keep delivering quality education to your students through means that are unprecedented in human history. Likewise, we're facing the same kind of challenges in doing our work at FSA and maintaining the kind of collaboration and coordination that can allow us to be effective. Let me touch on 5 things we're doing at FSA that affect you very directly and where we intend to be as supportive as we can. First is the FAFSA form. Over the years, we've tried to make it easier and simpler for students and parents to complete this form, which you know is the magic ticket to federal student aid. Recently, we made it possible to fill out the form on mobile devices as well. But Congress has also stepped in to mandate much greater simplification of this process and related reforms as well. Among other things, the new law expands student access to federal Pell Grants and subsidized loans. It changes the methodology used to calculate how much federal student aid students and their families will receive. And it improves the exchange of tax data to help people file accurate FAFSA forms. So change is coming, and we hope that you, your students, and their families will find all the changes helpful. We will make every effort to keep you informed about our progress. Second, FSA has been working for some time now to create a better, more intuitive way to connect us to your campuses. In March, we launched FSA Partner Connect as the digital portal that modernizes our school partner experience so that you can focus on what you do best, which is serving the needs of your students. As it turned out, our timing was pretty good in the face of the pandemic and the new virtual normal that it produced. Right away, this new tool proved itself to be popular. In its first 3 weeks, more than 86,000 users logged in, more than 190,000 sessions, and piled up over 700,000 page views. Please make it a point to share with us your feedback about how FSA Partner Connect is working and anything else we can do to improve it. Third, FSA's reorganization efforts have enabled the launching of a Partner Engagement and Relationship Management Group. Led by Dr. Joel Harrell, who introduced me, this group is responsible for engaging and managing relationships for our federal student aid programs at minority-serving institutions. They champion outreach activities and respond to program issues and requests from you. The work they're doing is all part of our ongoing effort to strengthen our links to and our support for the HBCU community and its leadership. That also includes the ongoing work of FSA's Minority Serving and Under-Resourced Schools Division, which is led by Dr. Marcia Boyd. Her team will continue to provide technical assistance and training in support of HBCUs. You will be hearing more about their activities, which includes organizing the upcoming Presidential Leadership Executive Session on November 29th, just prior to FSA's annual training conference. More on that in a moment. Fourth, some of you know that many HBCUs are benefiting from the Project Success program. Launched in 2017 with 59 minority-serving institutions, Project Success works with participating schools to help them identify student risk factors affecting graduation, persistence, and cohort default rates. More recently, we expanded the number of participants through phase 2 of the program, which is expected to operate through September 2022, with 86 HBCUs taking part. Project Success also provides critical resources such as emergency grant aid funds and help in managing student loan portfolios. Fifth, we will again be bringing you this year's virtual FSA annual training conference. The conference will be filled with engaging general forums and informative breakout sessions, including a special session for leaders of minority-serving institutions. We strongly encourage you and your financial aid administrators to join us November 30th through December 2nd, as much as you can, as well as for the special session I just mentioned that occurs the day before on November 29th. Because of COVID-19, we've had to move to all virtual gatherings again this year, but the silver lining, as we found to our surprise, is that the virtual format is so much more cost-effective for many organizations that it has allowed more people to take part than ever before. We had record participation in last year's conference, and we hope for the same large turnout this year. Help us make that happen. Let me close by calling your attention to another important issue now on the horizon, the return to repayment for 42 million borrowers on federal student loans. The date for return to repayment is now set for January 31st, and rest assured that it is top of mind for everyone at FSA. We're working to provide guidance and extensive outreach to borrowers, institutions, civic groups, and others, everyone really, to make sure that you can all be aware of this milestone. And we're seeking to ensure that the new repayment process works well for all borrowers. We know that many have struggled during the pandemic, and many others were already struggling when the pandemic hit. Our goal is to help everyone get back on track with their loans and stay on track going forward. We need your help too, and we will be providing you with more details and information as you go so you can get that information out and make sure nobody's missing it. Above all, please know that at Federal Student Aid, as is true for each of you, our work is not just about numbers and figures, but it's about improving people's lives. Thank you, and I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thanks, Richard. We appreciate those comments. Our next presenter is Mr. Greg Martin. Greg currently serves as the Director of the Policy Development Group in the Office of Post-Secondary Education. Good morning, Greg, and welcome.
Thanks, Joel. It's indeed a pleasure to be asked back to present on the HBCU conference. Those of you that have been around a long time have probably seen me in person at the conferences before, I think going back to the early 2000s. So it's great to be here again, and I really hope that in the very near future we'll be able to get together in person. This morning I have a few things to remind you of upcoming this fall. First and foremost is our negotiated rulemaking sessions that we're going to be conducting throughout this fall into the winter. On August 10th of 2021, we published in the Federal Register an announcement that solicited negotiators for the upcoming sessions. So I would encourage all of you to go to Partner Connect. We used to be IFAP. You can still access Partner Connect by typing in IFAP. It will take you there. The look is a little bit different for those of you who haven't been in it in a while. I like it. It's updated. It looks a lot more modern, but it does take some getting used to get familiar with navigating it. But once you do that, I think you're going to like it. So if you go on to IFAP and go into Federal Registers, please look at our notice that we published on the 10th of August. We solicited negotiators, and we also put out the schedule of committee meetings, and we need to have those submitted to us on or before August 31st. So be thinking about individuals you may want to nominate to participate in the negotiated rulemaking sessions to act as negotiators. And some of you may have had experience with that before. I know I've worked with many individuals from the HBCU community in negotiating prior rules. On the 26th of May, we had published an intent to establish negotiated rulemaking, and we proposed numerous topics in that announcement that we were considering negotiating, and then we conducted public hearings on those topics and gave the community an opportunity to make comments about what they'd like to see discussed at the negotiating table, or just to give their opinions of those topics we listed. Those virtual sessions took place on the 21st, 23rd, and 24th of June. We took that information, and in consideration of what we received in those comments, we have established the Affordability and Student Loans Committee, which will be the first negotiated rulemaking session that we conduct. And that will be on October 4th through 8th, will be the first session. We're going to do another one November 1 through 5, and a final session will be December 6th through the 10th. Some of the topics we'll be looking at in that negotiated rulemaking session are borrower defense to repayment, closed school discharges, total and permanent disability discharges, false certification discharges, loan repayment plans, interest capitalization, mandatory pre-dispute arbitration and prohibition of class action lawsuits, Pell Grant for prison education, and public service loan forgiveness. One sort of, well, I wouldn't say it's novel, but because we did do subcommittees the last time we negotiated, but we are having a subcommittee for this particular round of negotiated rulemaking, which will be for prison education. So there'll be a subcommittee that will be dedicated specifically to prison education, and that people on the subcommittee don't vote, but they will make recommendations to the main committee, who will vote on those rules. We have some other topics that we are going to consider. There were 7 topics, rather, that we did not take up in this initial round of negotiated rulemaking that we will take up in a subsequent round of negotiated rulemaking. And we will publish those at a later date. So stay tuned for those. Again, they will be out on the Partner Connect when we've established that. We will put out a notice in the Federal Register. As far as the nominations go for this upcoming negotiated rulemaking session that we're going to do, which, as I said, those nominations are due by August 31st. We're requesting nominations for several categories, and in thinking about the HBCU community, several of those categories would potentially include your membership. So I'm thinking here we'll have a representative from 4-year institutions of higher education. We're also going to have a representative from private nonprofit institutions, and also 4-year publics, as well as minority serving institutions. So several opportunities for your membership to become involved in negotiated rulemaking. Please think about who you might want to nominate to be part of these negotiations, and send those nominations in. We're always looking for people that want to serve on the committee. Just want to point out that this year's negotiated rulemaking will be entirely virtual. There are some pros and cons to that, obviously, but one of the benefits is that you won't have to travel to Washington to be part of that negotiated rulemaking. You can do it right from home. So there are some benefits there. The next topic I want to bring up briefly is a electronic announcement that we put out on the 20th of August, auspicious day. It's my birthday. So this electronic announcement came out informing the community that we had updated some R2T4 Q's and A's. As you know, we have a Q&A website out there, which we update every so often, and there's an extensive body of FAQs related to R2T4. We have updated those to reflect some guidance related to the September 2nd, 2020 final rules. As you know, those final rules made some pretty significant changes to R2T4, including changes to the way modules are looked at. So we have received numerous questions about those regulations over the last couple of months, and we've put out this rather extensive list of FAQs to assist institutions in implementing those rules. And as you recall, they were required to be implemented July 1st of this year. So you might want to reread that Federal Register notice on that was a final rules, rather, not a notice, on September 2nd, and then go in and take a look at those FAQs. And finally, I want to bring everybody's attention to, rather remind everybody that I don't think I have to remind people of this. We still have, COVID is obviously still an issue. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as if it's going to go away anytime soon. Most schools are back in person this fall, which is great. Some not, but we still have those flexibilities in place. And I want to remind you of our December 11, 2020 HEROES notice that's in the Federal Register that can be accessed through Partner Connect as well. We published on January 15 of 2021 an electronic announcement. Now that January 15 electronic announcement is important because it reminds people of the HEROES notice, tells them it's out there. It also includes a matrix that contains all the flexibilities we have, what they are, where they can be found, with links, and it also gives the sunset dates for each of those flexibilities. So as you're trying to navigate your way through, what all these flexibilities are, and they are numerous. We had published a couple of electronic announcements over the last year on these flexibilities, and you may be thinking, I can't keep track of them all. I had the same problem myself. So I go to this January 15 electronic announcement, go to the bottom of it, you can click on the link to the matrix, and I think that will be of great assistance to you in helping you navigate these difficult times that we're still in. And that's all I have to say to you today. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Again, I hope we can all meet in person next year. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Joel Harrell. Joel?
Thank you, Gregory. Appreciate those comments. Our next presenter for this morning is Mrs. Cynthia Thornton. Cynthia currently serves as the director of the Federal Student Aid Dallas Regional Office School Participation Team. We're delighted that Cynthia will be able to join us this morning to share some information about compliance and institutional partnership opportunities. Good morning to you, Cynthia, and welcome.
Thank you, Joel, and good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here with us during this year's HBCU conference. I'm Cynthia Thornton, Division Chief for the Dallas School Participation Division. Thank you for joining us in this session, the Reimagined Federal Student Aid Partnership, Partners and Title IV Compliance. I bring you greetings from Partner Eligibility and Oversight Services under the leadership of Dr. Michael Marion, Director, and I also bring you greetings from the entire Partner Participation and Oversight family. Many of you were familiar and knew Robin Miner in this role. She recently retired, and Dr. Marion now fulfills her role. Dr. Michael Marion joins us from the state of California, where he served as the chief for the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education. Dr. Marion will continue the pursuit of excellence in compliance as we navigate the challenges before us. He's excited to be your partner in compliance and looks forward to meeting and speaking with you in the near term. Now, in the time that we have today, I'd like to talk with you about our partnership in Title IV compliance. We want to be sure that you have the information and training necessary to ensure that each of your institutions maintain Title IV eligibility and compliance. Now, why is partnering with your institutions important? Let's start by reviewing the Title IV recipients and funding for HBCUs. For the 1920 award year, more than 244,599 students received some Title IV assistance based on data that's noted in the fall enrollment on iPads. 62,615 of those attended private nonprofit institutions, while, as you know, the majority attend public institutions, and those students represent 184,984. So you see, it's extremely important for the students you serve that we continue to focus on compliance and get this right. Many of you are aware that we have 100 HBCUs. For the 1920 award year, your institutions received approximately $3.4 billion in Title IV dollars. As such, Title IV compliance, remains a key component for your institutions. Slide 5 illustrates that 51 public HBCUs received $2.2 billion in funding, and 49 private nonprofit HBCUs received $1.2 billion in funding. Now, considering this information, compliance is key to increasing your student enrollment and providing the needed funding to support your enrollment and, more importantly, your mission. So let's review the Title IV risk areas that could impact your compliance. Partner Eligibility and Oversight Services provides a comprehensive compliance review of several of the potential risk areas. We continue to monitor your institution's eligibility and recertification applications. We monitor your annual compliance audits and financial statements. We monitor how you will receive your funds, whether that's heightened cash monitoring 1 or 2, and the majority of your institutions are on advanced funding. We continue to conduct program reviews, and right now that process is happening, virtually. Now, one of the most important areas that we want you to take away today is our partnership in providing technical assistance when needed and when requested. You'll hear more about that when you hear directly from Dr. Marcia Boyd. We work closely with her group and make referrals when we believe there's an opportunity to improve compliance. Now, when you need technical assistance, don't hesitate to ask. Our partnership and collaboration helps us both reach our performance goals. When we plan and work together, we get the right dollars to the right students at the right time. And it's a win-win for both organizations. But more importantly, the students that we serve and the taxpayers, who have entrusted these funds to us. On slide 7, we have the top program review and audit findings at HBCUs. Now, our time doesn't allow us to go into great detail today, but please take the time to review the chart in detail and examine your institution's compliance with each one of the findings that we're finding. Now, take note of finding number 1 for program reviews and number 2 for audits: student status, inaccurate and untimely reporting. Now, that simply means that someone is not updating the accurate information to the National Student Loan Data Center, and that impacts your default rate and the student's ability to receive aid at other institutions. So make certain that the office who is responsible for reporting the status of students, and often that's your registrar's office, in coordination with other offices on your campus, make certain that they're submitting timely and accurate data. You'll also want to note return to Title IV funds calculation errors. This finding is also on both reports. And so, as Greg mentioned earlier, we wanted to point out to you that the regulations recently changed. On September 2nd of 2020, the final rules amended the R2T4 regulations, and they became effective July 1 of this year. So be sure that you give your registrar's office, the fiscal office, and academic offices a heads up. The electronic announcement number 21-50 is posted on FSA Partner Connect. Overall, think about it. How's your institution's compliance? Do you have repeat audit findings? Reach out to our Partner Technical Assistance group under the leadership of Dr. Boyd for assistance. We're here to help. One of the goals of our partnership is that HBCUs maintain compliance and eligibility. It's essential that your institution stays abreast of current Title IV regulations. Dear colleague letters, electronic announcements, and Federal Register notifications are posted on the new FSA Partner Connect webpage. You may recall that we replaced the Information for Financial Aid Professionals page, or IFAP, on March of 2021. Now, does someone at your institution monitor this webpage for updates? Consider signing up for weekly alerts. We also want you to apply for recertification timely. Now, we'll help you by sending you a reminder to let you know that it's time to reapply. And the expectation is that you'll submit the application by the due date. We also need you to report changes in administration for updates to programs timely and when applicable. You may reference Volume 2 of the FSA Handbook for specific deadlines. It's also important that you submit your audits timely. This is essential to maintain compliance and avoid a potential past performance violation that could result in a 5-year past performance letter of credit. Now, since 2019, we've also reminded institutions that audits and financial statements must be submitted through the Easy Audit system to comply with the new financial responsibility standards. And while you can submit through the clearinghouse, because that's a requirement for some, it doesn't meet the standards. So make certain that those of you who are submitting through the clearinghouse, that you also submit that audit via Easy Audit to avoid a late audit notification. Finally, to maintain eligibility, it's important that your institution takes advantage of training, such as the FSA conference. This year's conference will be November 30th through December 1st, which will be virtual again. And we also have been sponsoring other webinars. One other update that we'd like you to know is that our federal updates, they're now going to be quarterly. So if your institution has not been attending, perhaps some of your regional and state conferences, we encourage you to check out FSA Partner Connect training to take note of when the quarterly federal updates will occur. I believe the first one coming up is September, so that's important. It's also important that you stay connected. During the last year's December 2020 virtual training conference, we announced that FSA Partner Connect would be our new portal for our community of institutional and financial partners. And we launched it in the spring of 2021. In fact, it happened on March 28 of 2021. And now FSA Partner Connect now serves as the foundational platform for our partners to navigate participation in the Title IV programs. Just like you were able to do on IFAP, you'll see features such as our Knowledge Center, the FSA Handbook, but new and sleek and cool this time is the FSA Partner Dashboard that will allow you to review a snapshot of your institution's organization, which includes our partner metrics and communications and other high-level information that's specific to your institution. So that's pretty cool. Make certain that you check it out because we're excited about it, and we trust that you're excited about it as well. Also, be sure to take advantage of training. We said that repeatedly throughout this session because we just need to underscore that. We have designed a series of FSA Partner Connect training resources in different formats. Now, the newest training offered is in an announcement of the FSA Basic Training for new financial aid staff. And I know sometimes staff turnover is high, and perhaps during this pandemic, you've lost some staff. But if you have, we want you to know that we now have designed training that's specific to new staff. We also offer live webinars, and they are 1-hour instructor-led presentations. There are many webinar recordings that are available, and there are tutorials and things like other jobs aid, like FSA assessments that are there to help you. So think about it. Have you recently hired new staff? Great. Let us help you get them trained with our newly released FSA Basics for new financial aid officers. It's awesome. Now, one last update about FSA Partner Connect. Many of you may have been aware of the Ask a Fed email. Now, it's been replaced with our Partner Connect Help Center. On May 28, FSA migrated the Ask a Fed mailbox service to the Partner Connect customer service. Financial aid administrators and others interested users can now obtain guidance and ask questions about Title IV and FSA programs by going to Partner Connect Contact Customer Support page. After filling in your name and email address, and just select FSA Ask a Fed policy from the drop-down, and then submit your question. That's pretty cool too. Now, there are key benefits when we partner together to maintain compliance. We build public trust in the administration of the billions of dollars that are made available, and we've already expressed that your funding is tied to compliance. Your students are counting on compliance, and so is the public. Earlier, we discussed compliance activities, getting regular updates and training and technical assistance when needed. That will reduce processing errors and potential liabilities. When your institution remains in compliance, it avoids paying high liability dollars associated with non-compliance, most often discovered during program reviews and audits. As noted in item number 3, having access to advanced funding is a preferred methodology for receiving funding rather than heightened cash monitoring or even heightened cash monitoring 2 or reimbursement. And thankfully, the majority of your institutions are on advanced funding. So we want to make certain that we keep it that way. Now, finally, as we come to a close, we'd like to remind you of the COVID-19 waivers and flexibilities as posted on Partner Connect. And Greg, who preceded me, referenced the flexibilities. So on this slide, you'll see relief from the COVID pandemic. It took many forms, and one of those was the Higher Education Relief Fund, or HEERF. There were 3 separate laws that provided funds under HEERF. The CARES Act passed in March 2020, the Coronavirus Response, and the Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, signed into law December 27th of 2020. And most recently, the American Recovery Act passed on March 11th of this year. You can find more information about HEERF and the requirements for each iteration of the program at the website on the top of this slide. There's also a link to guidance published by the Department's Office of Inspector General on the expectations for compliance audits of the HEERF programs. Now, the department also provided guidance on a variety of flexibilities specifically for the Title IV programs. And Greg mentioned that the most recent was published December 11th of 2020. And these generally can be found at the 2 links at the bottom of this slide, so please take time to review those. This guidance covers a lot from distance education flexibilities to the return of Title IV funds and SAP, or Satisfactory Academic Progress Relief, regarding verification. And that's also worth noting too. If you did not hear, the department recently waived the verification requirements for the remainder of the 21-20 award year. So that should provide some relief for you and your students. Now, we can't go into all of the flexibilities now, but again, would just like to point you to FSA Partner Connect so that you and your institution can learn more. Now, for anyone who's been in Title IV for a long period of time, you know that the rules change frequently. Sometimes it's hard to keep up and stay connected. Sometimes it's hard to send staff to training and even understanding the regulations. So as we close, we encourage you to reach out to us if you need our assistance, and we'll work with you and we'll work with your staff as needed and provide the answers. And if we don't have the answers, we certainly have the resources here at the department that we can direct you to. So be proactive and stay in contact with any one of our regional offices Our contact information has been updated and is on this slide listed. Now, we need you to take care and be safe and wear your mask. Thank you. And now I turn it back over to Dr. Harrell.
Thank you, Cynthia. We appreciate your comments. Our next presenter this morning is Dr. Michelle Cooper. Dr. Cooper currently serves as the Acting Assistant Secretary for Post-Secondary Education and the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Higher Education Programs in the U.S. Department of Education. Welcome, Dr. Cooper, and we look forward to your comments this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Harrell. It is a pleasure to speak to the HBCU community today at today's event, albeit virtually. The last 18 months have brought new realities, new insights, and new ways of doing things. And right now, as you kick off a new semester, many people are eager to get back to normal. But it's important to remember that a whole lot has changed. So getting back to normal might not be the right goal. Instead, we should reimagine what the future should be for our students. And we should focus on making sure that our post-secondary system works well for today's students. And that's what the Biden-Harris administration is laser focused on. Real students, real leaders, and real results. As you know, education is a foundational part of President Biden's agenda. We are committed to building back better for all Americans, and to get there, we will need the talents and the skills of each and every student. And so today, I want to share with you 4 core features of the Biden-Harris administration's education agenda that is essential to your work. The first core feature is recovery. President Biden to our nation's recovery, and that includes all colleges and universities. In March, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan, which is a $40 billion investment in higher education. The American Rescue Plan is one of the largest single investments ever made in institutional and student grants into our nation's most under-resourced institutions. It more than doubles the first 2 COVID recovery packages. And when you combine and total all 3 of the pandemic relief packages that have been given to higher education, it totals more than $80 billion. Now, over the last several months, we have heard from students and from parents who have shared how these emergency funds have helped them, how they've helped them to re-enroll in college, and how they've helped for their students to persist in college. For example, we heard firsthand from a student named Laura, who experienced the disruptive effects of COVID when she actually contracted the virus. Laura was ill for 3 weeks, which meant she couldn't work for 3 weeks, and that meant she had no income for 3 weeks. So she used her higher education emergency relief grant to cover basic needs like rent and gas. But she also used a portion of it to cover the cost of her textbooks for school. We also heard from a parent, Mrs. Dudley. She's the parent of a student at Benedict College, and she was thrilled that the college eliminated her son's institutional debt, which then allowed him to re-enroll in college this semester. There are millions more students and parents like Laura and Mrs. Dudley, and you know them because they are your students and they are your parents. And you too have testimonials that you can share. Now, the emergency relief funds are designed to help our students and to help our institutions emerge from this pandemic stronger. And it is important that we strive to make things better than they used to be. After all, when you think about life before the pandemic, some things weren't universally great for a lot of people. When we think about some of the things that were happening at some of our colleges and universities, we know that there have been disparate outcomes that have been abundantly clear, have been persistent for years, for decades in some cases. And what those disparate outcomes have shown us is that our higher education system works well for some, but not for others. So emerging stronger from the pandemic means we don't carry those bad practices and those bad ideologies into our future. At the Department of Education, we have released guidance on reopening and have launched the Safer Schools and Campuses Best Practices Clearinghouse, which highlights lessons learned and best practices from other colleges and universities. These resources are available via our website, and they can help guide you and your team as you navigate the realities of reopening and educating your students. Second, the Biden-Harris administration is committed to improving college affordability, which is a systemic problem that we have to address comprehensively. That is why President Biden has announced support for a groundbreaking free community college program so that every student, including dreamers, has the opportunity to attain a college degree or a certificate. He also plans to subsidize tuition for low and moderate income students at HBCUs and other MSIs. President Biden is also working toward doubling the Pell Grant. As you know, millions of students, millions of thousands of your students rely on the Pell Grant to afford higher education each and every year. But unfortunately, the program has failed to keep pace with the rising cost of college. Now, we are also working to provide support to student loan borrowers as they repay their loans. Student loans, as you know, are a major contributor to post-college inequities, including the racial wealth gap. So we look forward to engaging with students and institutions through our upcoming rulemaking sessions, where we will address the critical issues like income-driven repayment plans and public service loan forgiveness programs. And I must say that we applaud all those institutions that have used their emergency relief funds to eliminate institutional debt balances for students, which is helping to really combat the problem of college affordability. It's helping students re-enroll, it's helping them to transfer, and it's helping them to obtain their degrees so that they're not being held up by outstanding costs. HBCUs have led the way in this initiative, and we hope that you will continue to do so in the years to come. Now, this brings me to the third core feature of the Biden-Harris administration, and that is college value and college outcomes. The Biden-Harris administration wants to really see improvements in student outcomes. We want students to have access to good colleges and good jobs. And learning and working are essential outcomes that go hand in hand. President Biden knows that more resources should be dedicated to increasing retention and graduation, and hopes that a bold new grant program to assist colleges like yours in implementing evidence-based practices and solutions will be helpful. These kinds of practices and innovations could include things like improved academic and career advising services, wraparound support services and emergency grant aid for students, enhanced transfer policies, and other practices that could improve teaching and learning. President Biden also intends to make a substantial investment in building the research infrastructure and capacity at HBCUs, as well as creating high-quality workforce development programs that will allow for partnerships across the education spectrum, but also with businesses and workforce development organizations. Getting students to and through college and into the workforce with high-quality degrees and credentials is of paramount importance to us. This is one of the administration's top priorities, and we intend to work very, very closely with you, college leaders and college staff, to ensure that students reach this milestone. This is an important achievement, not just for students and their families, but it is essential for our country's economic and global competitiveness. Making the college dream a reality for each and every student is a step towards economic progress and stability for all of us. Fourth, the Biden-Harris administration is all about equity. We're deeply committed to equity. Transforming higher education requires that we uplift diversity, equity, and inclusion within all facets of our educational system. Now, this means that we identify and address the underlying systemic barriers. That means these policies and practices that are drivers of inequitable outcomes and have created a system of haves and have-nots not only on our college campuses, but also in our workforce and in our broader society. The education priorities of this administration aim to create an equitable education system from cradle to career, one that changes lives and gives students, especially students from Black and Brown communities, low-income and working class communities, adults, those in rural counties, gives all of them the education that they need for long-term social and economic mobility. HBCUs, you know, and we know that you are critical to helping us achieve this vision. And this is a role that you have played for a very long time. My colleagues and I at the Department of Education appreciate all that you do. Despite the challenges of this global pandemic, you have done good work. And for that, we say thank you. Please know that we are your partners in these efforts. So as you move forward, as we move forward, we hope that we can do it together. And I hope that we can recommit to a shared vision for a better, more equitable higher education system. And I hope that you will double down on your commitment to our students and never lose sight of the fact that the awesome fact that the future of the rising generation is in your capable hands. Thank you very much. Turning it back over to you, Dr. Harrell.
Our final panelist this morning is Dr. Marcia Boyd, Director of Federal Student Aid's Partner Technical Assistance Group. Dr. Boyd will provide an overview of the Minority Serving and Under-Resourced Schools Division, highlighting the opportunities for participating HBCUs to receive technical assistance and support from Federal Student Aid. Good morning, Marcia, and welcome to this morning's session.
Good morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 National HBCU Week Conference. We at Federal Student Aid are very grateful to the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities staff for the tremendous support they have provided as host, and to the conference organizing committee, whose members have put together an engaging program. We thank you in advance for attending the conference and the great work you continue to do, serving, empowering, and educating students at your institutions. I am Marcia Boyd. I am the director of the Partner Technical Assistance Group. One of the divisions within the group is the Minority Serving and Under-Resourced Schools Division, and I will be speaking with you about this division today. The Minority Serving and Under-Resourced Schools Division, we also refer to it as MSERD, was created in response to a series of presidential executive orders to provide specific support to minority-serving institutions. MSERDs provides training, technical assistance to strengthen the Title IV administrative capabilities of MSIs. We try to expand opportunities for MSIs to participate in Title IV and other federal programs. We proactively identify the unique service needs of MSIs related to the administration of Title IV programs. We work collaboratively with other ed and government agencies to strengthen institutions and increase funding levels. Right now, our staff locations are in Washington, D.C. We have 5 staff members, pardon me. We have 6 staff members in Atlanta, Georgia, 1 staff member in Dallas, Texas, and 1 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Our institution clients are as follows: historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander serving institution, Alaskan Native and Native Hawaiian serving institutions, and predominantly Black institutions. The picture that you see on your screen depicts the schools that are located all across the United States and its territories. These are client institutions that we actually serve on a regular basis. Some of the outreach that we do, we provide technical assistance, on-campus site visits prior to the health crisis. We're currently conducting virtual technical assessments, and we also offer specialized staff training related to the FISAP, which is coming up, so be prepared, verification, fund reconciliation, return of Title IV funds, audit resolutions, policies and procedures manuals. We also help with operational manuals, loan default rates, COD, G5 reporting, and consumer information. We also offer management consultations during our on-site school visits and our virtual technical assessments. We provide information with regard to default aversion and default management plans we help set up. We also facilitate meetings and work with our external stakeholders and partners, such as the White House Initiative on HBCUs, the United Negro College Fund, Thurgood Marshall College Fund, the National Association for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education, just to name a few. We try to identify the unique needs of Title IV schools across all segments that will drive and inform FSA communications and operational services. We proactively determine most likely anything that's going to negatively impact your schools by changes in policy, legislation, and other known external factors. And then we deploy approved interventions to mitigate risk to those schools most likely to be impacted. One of the items that were mentioned earlier was Project Success. The objective of Project Success is to improve institutional performance and student outcomes at minority-serving institutions. What we have done is leverage our guarantee agencies, federal fund reserves to develop and fund activities at MSIs. We focus on improving persistence, graduation, and cohort and low repayment rates at targeted MSIs. The fact that we represent over 726 institutions who enroll approximately 3.1 million students and receive over $26 billion in Title IV, we try to do everything in our power to assist those schools to ensure that their students are in fact persistent, graduating, and repaying their loans timely. Again, we work with all minority-serving institutions, Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institutions, Alaskan Native and Native Hawaiian serving institutions, Hispanic serving institutions, historically Black colleges and universities, predominantly Black colleges and universities, as well as tribal colleges and universities. Some of the things that we have worked with a number of schools with regard to Project Success is financial literacy, default prevention. We work with students and coach them on many financial matters. We have an emergency aid program, staff training. We provide policy, procedure, and process consulting. And then there's also capacity building. The data-driven decision tools that we use and the communication strategies have resulted in schools actually improving their enrollment rates, as well as reducing the number of students that are leaving school for matters such as small emergency matters. So the keys to success, what we have found is communication, coordination, and collaboration. The departments that we work with, and we find that if they work together, they will be successful. The president, of course, the fiscal office, the registrar, admissions, academic affairs, information technology, student affairs, campus security, and institutional research. These are departments that we work with on campus when we are in fact on site or with a virtual technical assessment. Today, I want to say I miss seeing you in person. I wish that we could see each other, and hopefully next year, this time we will. Thank you for joining us today, and many thanks to the staff of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities for hosting this event. I sincerely hope you enjoy the conference.
Thanks, Marcia. At this time, we will move into our designated Q&A session. You should utilize the chat box on your device to place questions in general to the panel or to a specific panelist. We will address those questions in the order in which they are received. Thank you very kindly again for participating with us, and the chat box is open. Our first question this morning comes from Mr. Jared Carter, and Mr. Carter is raising the question regarding the repayment or resumption of payments for the student loan programs, and he is asking, will that reactivation of the student loan payments, how will that impact the institutional cohort default rates for this next year or years going forward? And do we have any idea how that may impact other operations at the institution once those loan payments have resumed? And so I'll pose that question now to Mr. Cordray, if he would like to address that.
So there's a lot that's uncertain at the moment about return to repayment and how we're going to deal with various issues. I don't really have a specific answer, although I would be happy to throw it to my colleagues in case somebody has something specific to say about that. We have made a variety of adjustments over the past year, as you know. We're likely to continue making some adjustments, although that's very much a case-by-case basis as we look ahead. So how we'll handle cohort default rates, I would say, is one of those things that it's unclear whether that will change in the year ahead or not.
Any other panel members care to chime in? Okay, if not, then the next question here is from Dr. Stephanie Freeman, and I believe this will go to you, Mr. Martin. Where do we go to get information to make nominations for negotiated rulemaking?
Well, thanks, Joel. Nominations for negotiated rulemaking are at this point closed. There was a Federal Register announcement in the Federal Register that soliciting them, but they have since been closed. And but I would tell everybody, however, that remember these nominations that we just did are for the Table 1 of negotiated rulemaking, which is our first round of negotiated rulemaking. We will be soliciting nominations shortly for the second round of negotiated rulemaking. So the first round's dealing mostly with loan issues. There is a subcommittee for prison education, and then they'll announce other issues coming up on Table 2. So stay tuned for that Federal Register notice. Make sure you, if you're not signed up with Partner Connect, what used to be IFAP, to get updates, make sure to do that so that you know when a Federal Register notice has been published, because that's where we announce them, and it also gives you the link there to where you should submit nominations.
Thank you, Gregory. This next question goes to Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper, is there a list of institutions who have used COVID money to eliminate student debt, institutional debt?
We don't actually have a list per se. Certainly, there have been a number of news stories about that, and HBCUs have been leading the way in terms of the institutions that have actually been doing that and doing it very effectively. But what we do have is we have the best practices clearinghouse, where we have the institutional debt example of some good practices institutions are doing related to the HEERF funds, but a host of variety of other things related to academic support services, technology, mental health services. So if you wanted to visit the Best Practices Clearinghouse, you can get a wide array of examples of ways that institutions have been using those funds for the betterment of their students in the institutions. But just a list of actual institutions related to institutional debt per se, we don't have that list, but you can probably Google it in news stories and you'll see quite a few of them come up.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Mr. Michael McGee has a question. I'm not sure who wants to address this, but can we get more insight on students with disabilities and international students when it comes to financial support? And I'm not sure if that's Title IV or just overall financial support, but information regarding students with disabilities and international students.
Is the question just about financial support or is it broader?
I believe the question is about just financial support.
Okay, well, I'll leave it to my colleagues in FSA.
Okay. Anyone want to tackle that on in terms of just overall financial support for international students and students with disabilities from an FSA standpoint?
Well, look, I'll just say this is Rich Cordray, head of FSA. By the way, if it seems that I changed my uniform, I did. I realized I meant to put my suit coat on for this session, so I went and got it and put it on after answering that first question. In terms of international students, students from the United States that go outside the United States for education, there's eligibility for support, and I've seen those instances. In terms of disabled students with a disability, I'm not sure of what all the range of support is. I have seen that that we have been looking at students with accumulated student loan burdens and those that can qualify as temporarily or permanently disabled are being qualified for that now on an automated basis through Social Security matches. And that led to relief for almost 300,000 students in a recent action by the department. In terms of ongoing support for current disabled students, I'm not sure what the answer to that is. If anybody else has anything to add, they should feel free.
This is Greg. I would just add that not much to add to what Rich said, but I would remind everybody that disability-related expenses are part of the cost of attendance, the statutory cost of attendance. So where a student has disabilities, you can obviously include that component. And of course, you're looking at disability-related expenses that wouldn't be covered by any other agency or source. You wouldn't want to duplicate that in the cost of attendance. You also have a great deal of latitude with professional judgment to take into account a student's disability and what type of adjustments you'll make. Of course, you can make adjustments on either side of the formula. So you can make an adjustment to perhaps income or add in anything that might change any data element that might affect the expected family contribution. You can also, on the side of the cost of attendance, increase those expenses if those are warranted. And that's left to the discretion of the aid administrator. And you just have to exercise discretion in doing that. Is the expense that someone is claiming reasonable? And logical, and so you do have some latitude there. With respect to international students, as Rich points out, American students going overseas are eligible for direct loans if they're enrolled in an eligible institution overseas. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any support for international students coming from abroad to this country because those students are obviously not eligible for Title IV aid. So that would be my area of familiarity. So I don't know what's out there for those students.
Thank you very much, Greg. Dr. Lisa Wilson from Clark Atlanta University has a question. If students are unenrolled because they do not comply with institutional vaccination mandates, can we change their cost of attendance, tuition and fees, for example, to lost revenue?
I'm going to tackle that one. I don't think so, because they actually won't be enrolled, so they wouldn't actually have costs. But I want to invite you to reach out to me, Dr. Wilson, directly, and we can talk more about that question, because I want to make sure that there's not some nuance that I'm overlooking. So please, I sent you my email in the chat box, so email me and we can talk more. I should also say someone reached out to me directly to ask for the email address, the website address for the Best Practices Clearinghouse. And I did put that in the chat, and I hope that you all will visit that website and also see some of the additional best practices and submit your own if you have them at your institution.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. That was one of Dr. Wilson's requests. Put that in the chat box, the link. Thank you very kindly. Question, this is a question from Dr. Barbara Knight at Miles College in Birmingham, Alabama. Miles College is currently participating in Project Success and continues to benefit from the support, particularly in the areas of institutional capacity building. During this current pandemic, Miles has seen significant increases in first-year students' enrollment and overall enrollment. My question, Project Success is currently scheduled to end in September 2022. Can you speak to plans for Project Success after the September 2022 timeframe?
Yeah, I'll take that. This is Rich Cordray. First of all, we feel that Project Success has, to coin a phrase, been a successful project. We think that the 2 phases we've been through on it already, with the second phase, as you note, just now coming towards its end date, have shown that this assistance is needed and is helpful for the participating schools. The second phase involved an expansion of the number of schools that were included in participating in the program over the first phase. What we are doing right now is, as the second 3-year phase comes toward a close, we are working on a report to document what the effects of Project Success have been. It is my hope and expectation that report, I think I'm going to be seeing it next month sometime. I don't know exactly when it will be made public. It's my hope and expectation it will show that Project Success has been effective and helpful, and will help us justify, and we will certainly try to seek a 3rd phase of support for Project Success, and if possible, with the same number or an increased number of institutions taking part. But that remains to be seen. There are some budget issues with that, but it seems to me it's very aligned with the goals and the very publicly stated goals of the current administration around equity and inclusion. And so we are very hopeful that we can extend Project Success further. And again, the report that we are working up hopefully will provide the justification for that, or further justification for that. And again, I expect we will know more before the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Rich. Appreciate that. The next question is from Ms. Jocelyn Carter-Jackson. Ms. Jackson says, I've been paying my student loans prior to the pandemic as well as through the pandemic, and they are all current. I have found that I'm unable to obtain a new loan to complete my MBA. How can I get additional funds to complete my education? I'm going to ask Greg if you would come in, and this may be something, Ms. Jackson, that Greg may have to chat with you offline about, but Greg, you want to give a response to her concern?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, I'm unsure as to why anyone would be unable to secure a loan going forward. I'm not sure what type of a loan she's trying to obtain. There is, the eligibility for loans under the direct loan program hasn't changed. If it's a graduate plus loan, there are still credit check requirements associated with that. But absent that, there shouldn't be any problem with getting a loan. I would, if you have a specific, if Ms. Jackson has a specific issue, feel free to email me. It's gregory.martin@ed.gov. If there's a specific problem with getting a loan at a particular institution, I would be willing to take a look at what that is and see if we can help there. But that's all I can say without any more details about the situation. But I would just reiterate that loans are available for attendance at this time. So
Ms. Jackson, Gregory has encouraged you to reach out to him, please. If you have any difficulty, let me know directly or anybody on our team, and he can address more specifically your questions there regarding the opportunity for funds for your MBA program. Dr. Cooper, I'll pose this to you. Will there be an opportunity for funding for HBCUs who have not received any HEERF funds?
All accredited HBCUs should have received HEERF funds. And so if your institution has not received HEERF funds, then that means there's something else that might be going on. And so I invite you to reach out to me directly so I can give you insight into what's happening there. And if there's a problem on our end or a glitch of some sort, we can troubleshoot it together. So please reach out to me, preferably sooner than later, like today, this week, so that I can know what institution you're with or the one that you're concerned about, and we can figure out what's happening.
Thank you. Question from Ms. A. Covington: does the disability relief include students with permanent partial disabilities, such as a 15% permanent partial mental disability? And I'm assuming that Ms. Covington may be responding to relief that may be provided for student loans in terms of students with permanent types of disabilities, and I'm not certain if we can address that specifically now. We may need to get back to Ms. Covington on that, but does anyone want to take an attempt to try to address the concern?
Again, if a person qualifies for total or permanent disability under the Social Security Agency's guidance, I believe that's what's addressed by the automated match that we put together. The department put together with SSA very recently. As to whether the details of the particular disability qualify or don't qualify, I can't speak to that. Somebody may have to come back to that questioner with more details, depending on exactly what they're looking for.
Thank you. And Ms. Covington, please do feel free to reach out directly to myself or Dr. Hightower on the call here, and we'll be happy to provide other information if we need to. I don't see any other questions right now in our chat box. As we are wrapping this up, let me take this opportunity to say to our team members that we are pleased that you were able to join us this morning. To each of our panelists, thank you very kindly for your time, for your comment, and to those who participated in our session today, as well as with the live chat, thank you very much. And we hope you have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the HBCU 2021 virtual conference. Take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you this time next year in person. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.